Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good night. I don't know what time it is, wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to this look at the wonderful body language stylings of Miss Bredehoft. Since following this case for as long as what we have on the channel, I think that I've kind of gotten into the habit now of referring to most people as Miss and Mr. I think maybe even started with Miss Riffraff before the whole thing. Anyway, I'm waffling. Here we go. After the trial, Miss Bredehoft, she went on, as I understand it, several TV shows. I have a clip to go through with you guys from CBS Mornings. That one of you lovely folks was kind enough to personal message me. Let's have a quick look at some of the comments already. The Nikki, is this about Elaine? I despise that woman. Fair enough. Good to know where you are. But yes, it is about Elaine. Hello there to obviously normal. Obviously, of course you are. Hello. Hello there to Ines, who's tuning in from Germany, it seems. Guten Abend. Just call me Hen. It's been a while. Good evening to you. I hope you are keeping well. So yes, we're going to have a look at this TV show. Now, how it's been written about, I understand that it was quite the car crash. But other than that, I am as unprepared as ever for the viewing of these videos. I can't imagine that it will be altogether too well thought out, based on her recent performance, let's call it, in case. Good evening to Insanity Methods. Good evening, good evening. So yeah, in time-honoured fashion, as it's been a while, if this is your first time to the channel, welcome. My name is Ben Cardall, and I am the author of the best-selling book, The Monographs, which details the real-world methods for the skill set of Sherlock Holmes, how to train them, how to develop them, how to practice them, and how to utilise them in any and all walks of life. And I now spend my days teaching people from all over the world how to do this for the protection of themselves and those around them, including many of the big boys from this particular platform, who NDAs won't let me tell you about, and many of the popular acronyms. There is a reason why I don't go into that, is because, quite frankly, I can't imagine you care. So that's just a little bit of a background of who I am. Since we hit that kind of glorious 10,000 mark, which I'm still very grateful for, we have struck upon the celebratory special, if you want to call it that, the gimmicky thing that we're gonna do for 10,000. Well, I say we, it's very much I'm gonna give it a whirl, in terms of a physical challenge, combined with certain cerebral tasks, which is things that we get up to on this channel as well. You'll have to search for some of the other videos, if that's something that you're interested in. If it isn't, then don't, because it'll be a waste of time. Anyway, to tonight's purpose, excuse me. Lexi is currently sat at my feet, behaving like some sort of cokehead. She's rubbing her gums like this incessantly. Getting in there. Lex, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm judging you. Anyway. No, this wasn't your 15 minutes of fame, darling. I know. Okay, anyway, less about the dog, and more about why we're here. So, Miss Bredehoft, who I understand at this stage is not experiencing a great deal of success, although in her law degree, right, she was once described. Anyway, moving on. Here it is. Let's get to this. Cue it up. Oh, that's already a few seconds in. Let's go right back to the... Oh, God, it's her. It's here. Oh, Insanity Methods picked up the monographs in 2016. Wow. Sadly, let a lot of what I learned from it go dormant. Started learning again last month. Rock and roll. Thank you very much for your interest and your support. I do appreciate it. Obviously, she loves feet. Yeah, she does. She must love her own feet. She's constantly chewing her own and cookies as well, which is very annoying for him. Just call me hen. You're not hanging upside down with your head in ice cold water again, are you? God, that was stupid, wasn't it? No. In a nutshell, I could try and build that up for drama in some way, but no, that was 100%. Don't get me wrong, very challenging, and a great practice drill for control of being able to think under pressure, but 100% one of the dumbest things I've done. 100%. Or eating glass. Yeah, let's not go into my shoddy backstory as, I don't know, some kind of weirdo, I guess. Anyway, let's focus on the reason why we're here and the luminous nature of her dress. Okay, here we go.
A Virginia jury's decision to side with Johnny Depp in his defamation lawsuit is drawing both condemnation and praise.
Already, that's further proof as to why I don't really like this woman. She holds a particular bias in her view of current affairs, right? Instead of talking about the outcome in terms of guilty, not guilty, the jury has sided with Johnny Depp in that scenario. Great distancing language from the start. We saw similar things when she interviewed Jim Carrey about the whole Will Smith Chris Rock slap incident, and Jim Carrey absolutely owned her during this one. So very much rearing the bias of her particular viewpoint as well at this stage. So if it's just her and Elaine, I mean, I hope it isn't, just for the sake of some kind of challenge to Miss Bredehoft's opinion. But this is going to be a lens through which we should view the rest of this information, because it's going to be coloured accordingly. Okay.
The verdict came after 6 weeks of very dramatic testimony from both sides. She claimed that he abused her, while he said she was the abuser. In his reaction, Depp wrote, "The goal of bringing the case was to reveal the truth, and that truth never perishes." Elaine Bredehoft is the attorney for Amber Heard and is with us now. And we should mention, we did also reach out to Johnny Depp's team, but they declined to be interviewed this morning.
Which is the smartest move any legal team could have made at this particular stage, right? If Johnny Depp's team got on, it would be seen as gloating, which I imagine, based on that and the rationale we explore in terms of Occam's razor and the like, she's going to be either blaming Johnny's power, blaming the fans, blaming this swaying on the jury, things to that effect. If it is that she's following that particular simplistic rationale already, we might get to see a different side, right? We might get to see the erudite and learned Miss Bredehoft in this particular domain, right? Because it's a very different arena to the courtroom, but we'll have immediate reflections on further cases, further things that she gets bought in terms of being hired as a representative, because this is very much an extension of the court of social media, I guess. After all, we're on social media. Don't get your hopes up. Oh, fucking hell. Excuse my language. No, I've sworn lots of times on here. I'll just, in the upload of this, I'll make sure that YouTube knows it's not for kids. Oh God, don't get your hopes up. Okay, fair enough. So let's see how this goes.
Elaine, thank you. We're so very glad you're here.
Thank you.
Okay.
We heard Amber's reaction to the verdict yesterday. This seems to be a huge victory for Johnny Depp this morning.
Yeah, a major setback for women, for women inside the courtroom and outside the courtroom.
Because?
To go straight in with your defense story is immediately to acknowledge that you're still playing the blame game. She has given away in these first few seconds precisely where she is in here. It's not our fault. Just call me hen. I warned you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the warning. It did nothing to dull the pain. But she's given away precisely where she is, right? It's the classic breakup line, but in reverse. It's not me, it's you. Arguably the more honest breakup line, maybe. But for this particular discussion that's about to happen, she's given away that when it comes to the discussion of Depp's case that eventually won him the case, and any of the evidence that was stacked up against her, although I would reasonably induce at this stage, if we explore the nature of Charles Sanders Peirce's reasoning techniques, I would reasonably induce here that won't be as focused on if she, Gail, I think her name is, if Gail is leading the charge. If other people are leading the charge, I don't know how this goes when there's more people there. I've only seen her interviewing by herself, so that's something to factor in moving forwards. But we can already see that starting to pull in terms of the arms towards the center, the retreat towards the midsection, right? Whether you follow anything like Chinese Kung Fu and the 8 pieces of brocade, or you follow behavioral sciences and evolutionary biology, right? Whether it comes down to freeze, fight, or flight, or the Dantian, the center of energy, she's pulling it back in, which is a fear mechanism in this area, right? So when we're combining such immediate defense, oh my God, this is a travesty. We were robbed in this scenario because incredible Mr. White, powerful, rich male has done his thing all over the jury. It's a setback for women. It ain't. In reality, which many people will argue because I am a white guy. Yes, Trinity's here. She's been trying to catch one of these for ages. But you could argue that I might be taking sides in that area. If you explore the logic of precisely what it is, the whole movement boiled down to believe women who say this no matter what. And what this case has done has said, well, actually, let's look at the evidence. And I've said it time and time and time and time again. When you actually take away everything else of it, who you like, who you don't, who you were rooting for, who you weren't, looking at the evidence, as it was a defamation case, it was demonstrably proven that he was abused by her. It was demonstrably proven that he abused himself and the occasional cupboard, which might have been uncomfortable for her. I can't imagine that's too nice to be around, but in terms of the abuse that she alleged, every single element was refuted or ultimately disproven. Right? Just call me hen. I don't think it's a setback for women. I think it's a step forward for victims and those that are falsely accused. Absolutely. Right? This is the point. Right? And this is precisely what I'm saying in terms of the body matching the words at this stage, precisely detailing to everybody else, this is going to be a car crash. Because she's not going to entertain other opinions. She's going to be behaviorally stuck in this zone. La, 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 la. Right? And now I pause this based on the, I pause this as Gail said, based on, after Elaine said that it was a setback for women in courts. If we are following this chain of reasoning, she will cite instances and stories, but have nothing substantial to back it up. It will boil down to it being nothing more than, well, because it is. Because Amber had all of this evidence and she didn't win. And if it isn't, if it's something more than that, then we have new information to work with to better understand what's actually going on in Elaine's head.
Because basically what this said, Amber had an enormous amount of evidence, although a lot of it was suppressed in this case as opposed to the UK. But look at all the women who have no evidence, all these women who suffer from domestic violence, domestic abuse.
Who? I don't doubt that there are, but there are also men that suffer from this. There are also kids that suffer from this. There are also pets that suffer from this. How does citing an ambiguously obvious, I realise that's quite oxymoronic, but it's obvious to state that, and it's ambiguous in terms of detail, right? So it's an emotionally filled sentiment that's designed to curry some kind of opinion. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed for that classic Sherlock Holmes phrase of emotional qualities are antagonistic to clear reasoning. And if you look at precisely what Elaine did, she started with the filler words and the noises, the temporary engagement of the lower back as she starts to look up and try and find these types of things. And it boiled down to Amber having lots of evidence. But anyway, other people. So based on what, Elaine? You have precisely nada. Oh dear. 1 minute and 3 seconds in, and she's already given the game away.
Abuse. They don't have evidence. And basically what this jury said is unless you pull out your cell phone and you tape record your spouse beating you, you're out of luck.
But Elaine, I think it was bigger than that because you had the evidence, as you say, but they did not believe her. Why do you think they did not believe her?
I think that a lot of that was that it was Johnny Depp.
How can that be the case? Right? How can, if anything, in a nutshell, that was the problem with the whole jumping on the bandwagon of the Me Too movement that many, many people do. I do need a hug. I do need a hug. Because there is such a leap in logic, in verifiable evidence, in linked details. When Amber's sat on the stand giving her information, the jury has, in a nutshell, gone, I don't believe her. How does that translate to a man that has to be in the courtroom silent and do nothing in that area, right? The further reflections that she's sticking to this fear-based opinion is in what I refer to as tension and release behaviors, because they're markedly different than freeze behaviors. Freeze, by the very title, means they stop and they don't move, right? But if you look at, the titles make it a little challenging to be able to do, but if you look at what her elbows are doing, I'm raising mine higher so you can see them, but if you look at what their elbows do, they are here, allowing her to gesture and seem like she's quite comfortable and calm, but it's remaining fixed and close and providing that degree of comfort, never really leaving home in terms of where her homeostasis for comfort lies. If those elbows come out, we'll start to see that she's growing in confidence in that area. You could argue that the chair provides a priming of sorts for that, because it's one of those bucketed chair examples, but her body is nowhere near that in order to try and influence her movements in that way. It's being held there, which is another sign of anxiety, which is another sign of fear and another sign of tension. But it's being illustrated with motion and with movement. Okay? Further to that, God, this is just, it's painful so far. It's painful. It won't get any better. There's a good bit coming up that I will love. I can't imagine that I will. I can't imagine that I will. Let's have a look.
I think the celebrity status.
But she's a celebrity too.
And it's not only not
she's
believing her.
yeah, but she's a celebrity too.
Right.
But you have to remember, it's a tale of two trials. All the evidence came in the UK. Mr. Depp brought that one. The burden of proof was on the son in the UK because they had called him a wife beater and talked about the domestic violence.
So we've got to change up in terms of the illustrators to go from partial symmetrical behavior to asymmetry, which will be influenced by her current position on a stand, having to ask questions in term paper that's built into the kind of behavioral lexicon in that way. So this is a little bit more thought through in terms of what's happening, right? She's had this conversation before. You can tell because the speech is flowing freer. She's making eye contact with more and more people. Her blink rates remain terrifyingly short and shallow. But there's still that tension. There's still the engagement of what's known as the reticular activation system, right? If you've ever looked at a small animal and immediately ascribed it some kind of fearful behavior, it's because it's moving with an erratic nature, which is the nature of its structure. When we as humans do that, it's a leak of our current fearful state, our current anxious state in this way. So to cite this kind of previous information as they got it wrong elsewhere, it's still saying, it's not my fault. It was the naughty, powerful rich man that did it. Now, me personally, I don't know I don't know anything really about the case in England other than what you guys have told me. But as I understand it, there were a number of holes in that as well. A number of elements relating to perjury and bias within her media friends and the like. But from Gail as well, I wasn't expecting those points in terms of she's a celebrity too. Well, yes, she is, but anyway, moving on. Madness. Absolute madness.
He had his opportunity to tell the truth then. And a 3-week trial, he lost. The judge found 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence. And that came out November 2, 2020. We weren't allowed to tell the jury that.
Well, it's a different system, and the judge, it wasn't a jury, it was a judge.
But again, to revert back to this, right, when you look at the kind of way, I suppose would be the best word, the way that which our body can betray us, we didn't know, right? I will deflect all of the blame and accept everything that praises me. We didn't know. It didn't need that. We didn't know. We weren't allowed. We couldn't do this. We couldn't tell them. That's authenticity. Further highlighting what's going on in this woman's head. Oh, Craig's joining us. Good evening, Craig. Being reliant or trying to be on external forces to absolve herself of the loss and to look to save face. 100%. 100%. Let's keep it going.
Substantially true, and that is significant, and I think surprised a lot of legal analysts. But in this case, the jury not only didn't believe Amber Heard, but in ruling that she acted with actual malice, that means she had the intent to cause harm, right? That's a pretty high standard to have proven.
And it's pretty amazing since the op-ed never even mentioned Mr. Depp. You have to remember that. What they learned from the UK case is to demonize Amber, which is what they did, and to try to suppress as much of the evidence that came in the UK and did not come in the United States. But the other problem is we had cameras in the courtroom. So here we had, not only did we have a group of Depp fans that were there every day, 100 were allowed in. They lined up at 1 o'clock in the morning for their wristbands to be in that courtroom. But we had everything on camera, and we had tremendous social media that was very, very, very...
All of which does nothing to a jury's view. If you look at the woman that got kicked out because she saw a couple of TikTok videos or social media videos or something like that, it was a case of, out you go. Your opinion's not valid anymore because it's potentially biased. From the people that I know that have been on jury duty, that's one of the main struggles, is living in a bubble for however long the case has to go on. Which is why a number of people hate it. So all of that stuff doesn't matter at all. The people in the courtroom may have some kind of a sway in terms of, oh look, there's a number of Johnny Depp fans there, no Amber Heard fans there. Okay, right. Here is some evidence that says this man sexually assaulted this woman with a bottle. Well, all these 100 people are fucking idiots for supporting him then, because this is irrefutable. Did that happen? No. It was refuted. That's the reason cases continue. She should know that, being a lawyer. When cases continue and appeals and further elements are explored in this it's because there was a mismanagement, a view of a miscarriage of justice. If I said to you guys, the proverbial you, because I can't see a literal you, if I said to you guys, you are a complete bastard and I'm going to make a Facebook status about it and everyone's going to hear that view, and because it's such a popular view, then everyone's going to believe it. Would you sit there and take it? There might be a moment of self-reflection, depending upon how comfortable or not comfortable you are within your own skin. Where you think, oh God, no, am I this? Oh God, no, fuck that, I'm going to fight back. Now imagine that basic, fundamental, vacuous argument, but on a global scale with something as horrific as domestic violence. Or some of the other things that he was accused of. You're going to fight back. You're going to keep it going. You're not going to lie down and take being called a wife beater if you're not. Chris Brown couldn't. Because it was irrefutable that he beat the shit out of Rihanna. Irrefutable. All Rihanna had to do was talk about it a little bit, show the pictures, done. Amber tried that. Wait a minute, something doesn't add up. It turns out you were full of shit. Who knew? Everyone knew. We all knew. Look at, what was that porn girl's name? She went out with a UFC guy. Christy Mack. She went out with a guy. I don't remember ever reading his real name, but his fighter name was War Machine. And there was abuse gone on that she suffered for ages. Terrible beatings, terrible psychological, physical, and sexual abuse. There was an angle made that she didn't have grounds to qualify these claims based on the fact that she was an adult actress. Which, on the surface, is a disgusting sentiment by itself, right? Whatever you do for a living, nobody has the right to have that kind of way with you. And she bravely, I think there was video footage of it on what's the channel called, JCS Psychology or something, the full video on it. And she sat there, similarly, told her story, obviously broke down in tears, provided evidence, provided photos, audio recordings of 911 calls and the like. Boom, case dismissed. War Machine in prison. He was a very popular UFC guy. As I understand it, he was good at what he did. I don't think he won any belts. But, you know, there is a similar thing there. Granted, not the same, but there is a similar reflection happened. Why are no War Machine fans claiming, oh, he was unjustly hard done to because Christie is such a popular celebrity? It didn't happen because the focus was on the information. Nothing more. Same is said here. Elaine is behaviorally flogging the dead horse.
Much against Amber.
It was pointed out that that was the first time that a victim of sexual abuse had to testify on live television.
And I fought hard and lost that battle. It should not have happened.
So I am a
I fought hard and lost that battle. You see the position? There is virtually a degree of egocentricity about it. Maybe that's why she joined that team. Who knows? Objection, speculation.
former NFL player. And after a hard loss, it's easy to wake up and point to the other side. Oftentimes, I realized the better thing to do was to look in the mirror. What mistakes?
Yes! Whoever this guy is, I missed his name if they said it. If he said it. But yes. Yes! He's either picked up on it unconsciously, or he's seeing exactly the same things we are, and he's calling her on it. Boom! I love that. But look at that position of her arms. Hands on the table, thumbs pressed together, further tension indicated by the clothes, because it's difficult to see the precise nature of the tension in her arms themselves because of the colour of the clothes. Pursed lips. Tense eyelids. She did not like that one bit. Just call me in. Yes! I did like it. I did like this. I'm now a fan of whatever that guy's name is. I'll find it out after. I can't imagine he said it, because nobody else introduced themselves, and I never usually miss names that way. So I don't think he said it. But anyway, whoever this NFL guy is, bravo. Bravo.
Did I make as a player? What mistakes did our coaching staff make? And then how can we improve from there? Do you feel like you guys made any mistakes along the way? Do you feel like Amber made a mistake while she was on the stand? Because you're saying it's the celebrity, it's Johnny.
Did you see the gesturally emblematic slip from Elaine? Okay. If she'd really wanted to speak, she would have. She would have.
It's the people who support him. But what about you and your team?
Well, and that's an excellent question. And to say, and you know, Amber even said on the stand, I am.
Well, let's just jump in there straight away. Thermodynamic engagement, right? Oh, shit, that's an excellent question. Jesus Christ. And Amber, and she filler words, distractions. Our own client even said nothing initially. Right? When it's a thought-provoking question, the reactions are different. But when it's completely contradictory to your current emotional standpoint, your current cognitive standpoint, where you are behaviorally and cerebrally at that time, when it's completely contradictory, you have that kind of waft, reactive response, and state something about the question. It's distancing language. It's buying you time to come up with something. She's not been prepared for that at all. So whatever she does moving forwards, it will either go in one of a couple of ways. It will either feature much more filler words and much more distracting words into Amber case people. That's an exacerbated version of what I mean, but hopefully that point is coming across. You will see tension and release behaviors in terms of one hand being fixed and the other gesturing, or this being fixed and the other gesturing, or it will gesture slightly and then go back to being fixed and rigid with occasional release of tension and energy. Thermodynamics, energy has to go somewhere in terms of finger tapping and the like. She can't quite self-soothe, she can't quite extend or flex in that area. Her feet have remained shockingly quiet in terms of gestural volume at that stage, or it will be some kind of combination of all of those moving forwards.
I am not perfect. I am a human being. These people were giving her death threats. They threatened to microwave her baby. This is the kind of social media she was getting. So are any of us perfect? No. Is there something else we feel we should have done?
Right? Called it. Called it. And that's how we can start to see when we're reading the right lines. If what we think is going to happen happens, I know I'm on the right wavelengths. I know I'm understanding between the lines exactly what's happening. Because she's not said anything at this stage. Oh, some information about Chris Brown. Thank you, Kerry. So when Chris Brown was accused that he was boycotted at the same time Mary J. Blige hit. Oh, I didn't know about Mary J. Blige hit her husband so hard she drew blood. That was not put all over media. Her career wasn't boycotted. Similar to the reaction Johnny got compared to Amber being exposed as the liar male and female perpetrators should be treated the same. Boom. Mic drop from Kerry in the comments. Spot on. Completely agree. Spot on. Craig adding as well, her elbows aren't moving from her side, not opening up, swaying in the chair, no open gestures. Here we go. She's completely closed down. And in terms of the verbal content, she's still trying to find something to say. These are hallmark sentiments in terms of trying to maintain some kind of ownership of responsibility. I am human. To err is human. Or to err is human. Excuse me. Which ironically would be to err is human, right? You know, I'm not perfect. Well, of course you aren't. Who is? Oh, Johnny Depp's perfect. That's why he won. Fuck off.
Yes, absolutely. I redo my closings 100 times afterwards, whether I win or lose. That's part of being a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer, is there's always something. But I think that there were a lot of influences here that were beyond our control. And I think the social media, it was like a Roman Colosseum. It is the best way to describe the atmosphere here. And
Good God, Elaine. If you've ever been around some kind of an addict in your life, right, and you know that you can help them, or that they are able to help themselves if they just take a little bit of responsibility, just take a little bit of ownership, right? Some of the therapists that I've spoken to, when they vent, as they do to friends, is a little like, oh, I just want to shake them, just to say, if you just do this for yourself, you'll be able to have all of this success after the fact. That's what I want for her here. In a professional manner, if she had just said something along the lines of, wow, we fucked it. We did what we could with the information that we had. C'est la vie. That would provide more of a lesson for yourself. Just call me hen. Oh, I've dragged over some fans. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, Ben is awesome. Oh, shucks. But nice that you're bringing your fans over here. I keep wanting to say Miss Meehan, just because I've been doing the whole Miss Bredehoft thing. But just call me hen. Anyway, that was just a comment that made me laugh, but it was sidetracking me. But here we go. The further on this, right? The further on in this discussion that she goes after that quite frankly, brilliant question. She's been rocked to her core. Not the kind of rock, hen is fine, perfect. Hen it is from now on. Not rocked as in the way that a musician might do at a gig, but she's felt this at her core, reaching for elements that no longer make sense. I still redo all of my stuff at the end of, that's what makes a good trial lawyer. Great. You've still not accepted any responsibility. You've still not accepted any action. You've still not accepted any accountability for that. To continue with the analogy, a football player, an American football player, I mean, I suppose an English football player as well, but because that guy's an NFL player, may watch the game back afterwards, right? Which is nothing more than what she said about redoing her, whatever that she said after the fact. Which is when an NFL player would go into, okay, I did this wrong, so I'm going to work on this. I did this wrong, so I'm going to work on this. As a defense line, we did this wrong, so I'm going to talk to these guys, we're going to work on this. That's the accepting of responsibility. To that end, her arguments at this stage fall down to nothing more than that of her clients. Oh, woe is me. I am a woman that's hard done to. Please believe me. The end. Now there was a lot of shit flying around, no pun intended, about Amber Heard in this way. A lot of it. But there was also stuff flying around about Johnny Depp as well from her funds. So how does that have any effect on the outcome? Again, the jury won't see that. They're not allowed. Right? They're not. Which I imagine might be tantamount to some kind of, cold turkey addiction release to keep a series of strangers off their phones or Facebook or whatever it is that they're on for God knows how long. Might be a challenge in and of itself, going cold turkey like that.
Have to believe that the jury, even though they're told not to go and look at anything, they have weekends, they have families, they have social media.
They were not sequestered. They were not sequestered.
And the 10 days.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But what I do know after the fact is they are continually questioned and interviewed regarding their exposure towards these kinds of things. They have to go through continual interview processing. So that may have found its way in somewhere, but as a result of these kinds of processes, it will be brought to the surface and potentially dealt with, right? That does add a degree of potentiality to it there. It didn't fly around, it was firmly placed on the bed sheets. Boom! Which is also the sound effect I kind of hoped that she did after she dropped it. And then on she went. Anyway.
Period we had, how could they not have been influenced?
But Elaine, for most people watching this trial, and a lot of people, as you know, got huge views, it just seemed to be so messy and salacious and so tawdry on both sides. And I think for a lot of people from the outside looking in thought both of them were not telling the truth and that they mutually abused each other. Do you not believe that that was the case?
No, and that's one of the many misnomers. The way that Depp's team approached this was based on ignorance of domestic violence. It completely ignored the cycle of violence and just said, oh, she wouldn't have done this if he had been hitting her. That was their approach.
So you thought that they weren't fighting fair?
Correct. I don't think they were fighting fair.
And you think
absolutely.
Amber Heard is, in fact, a survivor of domestic violence?
Yes, I absolutely believe that. And there's a tremendous amount of evidence, much of which did not come into this trial, did come into the UK trial. We even had more evidence. We had medical records. We had mental health records that went back to 2012 that were contemporaneous. We had text messages from Mr. Depp's assistant saying, when I told him that he had kicked you, he cried.
So how is she today, Elaine? How is she today? What is her next move?
She's right. Well, her next move is appeal. There were a number.
She's heartbroken.
She is heartbroken. And one of the first
Okay, if she appeals, she's going to lose again. She's going to lose again. If she enters that back in, she's entering back into the same domain that she's currently saying, ruin this one for her. Right? Now, I'm nowhere near as qualified as Dr. Dr. Curry is in this area to diagnose these kinds of things, but I've got a number of degrees and diplomas and experiences with questioning subjects, 30,000 hours worth. Thank you very much. And I watched some of the case. The cycle of violence wasn't ignored. The questions were framed around data sets of research and exposure to cases that have been proven, that have presented further insight into DV victims and DV survivors and these kinds of things. Right? That's where the framework was based around. And it wasn't saying, there was no question saying, if this had happened, you would have done this. Questions were asking, okay, so this happened, why didn't you do this? That way you get more of an insight into their thought patterns. On the surface, there is no painting it red answer that anybody can say that they would do when they suffer at the hands of abuse. You don't know how you're going to react until it happens. It's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Largely different context here, but we can take away that same kind of principle. You don't know what you're going to do, right? Which is why the questions were framed in that way, to ask why you did what you did. That way, that information can be lined up against what they know of victims, of abusers, of these personality disorders that they had, and every other kind of mental illness record that they may or may not have had. This, when it comes down to that kind of information, right? This is the same way that when people, I say people, they are essentially businesses, they bring out some kind of new tea, or the one that I'm seeing a lot is coffee with a bit of lemon in, and somehow it'll erode fat because studies have said, where? That's a word that just curries favour. Oh, studies. The proverbial studies have said. I've referenced studies in this area, okay? But I've done my best, because I don't have this information to hand most of the time when I'm ranting like this. I'll cite something that I read a while back and try and point you in the direction of where you can find this yourself. That's the difference in this way. So to say that you had medical records and mental illness things and all of this, that and the other sounds great on the surface, but I would bet my big toe that Vasquez, the little pocket rocket, could pick apart every single flaw in that otherwise sizable plan. That is nothing more than her reflections of what she did in the trial, to try and make what she had sound bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger than what it is. Isn't that the nature of celebrity? Who's she been influenced by?
Things that she said when she came back from the verdict, when we went into the conference room, was, I am so sorry to all these women.
She said that?
Yes. She felt like she had let down all of these women because she had more evidence than most people do, and yet they still didn't believe her.
Elaine?
Well, if that is the case, which the jury kind of proved that it wasn't, but if that is the case, then you failed her because you couldn't put forward the evidence that she had properly. Evidence speaks for itself. If something happened and you have evidence of that, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Right? You can pick holes in it. You can skewer opinions and try and influence questions around this way, which is the nature of the courtroom. But ultimately, if this happened, then it happened. And the evidence will tell that. Every single piece she presented failed. And when she got up there to tell her story, that failed. Because everything that she said was picked apart. Yeah? I mean, I would take issue with that kind of a comment based on her pledging versus giving money to charity in that way, right? That's a direct contradiction to that sentiment. I failed all of these because it speaks to the cause and it curries favour, right? If you were really about the kind of altruism that requires, authenticity takes no effort in that area. I'm going to give this money to them. Great, done. I was abused. Here's the evidence. Done. Which, and please correct me if I'm wrong, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong, because that's just the way that the information is communicated to me at this time through Elaine. So there we go, guys. That's our look at the Bredehoft. I believe it was called an interview, but I think failure would be more applicable. I'm gonna go and try and nurse my headache in a dark room somewhere. Oh my days, that was painful. That was painful. So, with that in mind, if you got anything out of this, after the fact, there's a second Bredehoft interview. I don't think I can. I don't think I can. Sincerely, that was torturous to view. Enjoy your walk, Sir Craig. My very best to Shadow as you go. So yeah, folks, if I can try and curry favour with Adam, we'll take on the second Bredehoft interview. And we're due to stream that out tomorrow. If you're around, it will be around 7 p.m. UK time, but we're basing this on the time that he finishes his day job. So could be a little bit later, could be a little bit earlier, and the like, but there we are. You're not missing much. She says the exact same thing she said in this one. Okay, well that might be interesting then to compare and contrast the two from a behaviourally insightful standpoint, to try and see the difference in Miss Bredehoft's ability to communicate similar information, right? Does she do it differently? And if she does it the same, why? I mean, I realise we're using a very current event to try and illustrate this, but primarily the reason for these videos is to try and educate as best I can in terms of how my experience has led the understanding of what it properly takes to read another person. Okay? So, if there are any other further clips that you want me to have a look at, then by all means drop them in the comments, send me a personal message, attach them to an owl and send them over this way, and I will get on them. And if there isn't, then don't, obviously. If you've enjoyed anything that you've seen here or taken anything away, then I ask only that you subscribe to the channel or maybe join us for a live stream or two. Thanks to everybody that's joined in this evening. I've had a right good time with you guys, considering that we've all had to sit through this thing. Thing was dedicated towards the video, not a passive-aggressive remark towards Miss Bredehoft. But there we are. So there we are, guys. I wish you all a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're from, whatever you're up to. Take it easy, and I will talk to you all soon.